You're the average Canadian. You've got some money to invest. You want to use a tax preferential account. Should you use the TFSA or the RRSP? You want to use the RRSP first. I'm going to show you why now. Jim Ossifee, interpreting events to build wealth. RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan. Only 1 in 4 Canadians contributed to their RRSP this year. There's over $1 trillion in room that can be used. The average Canadian has $40,000 room to contribute to their RRSP. It just must be they don't like getting free money. The average Canadian uses their TFSA, their tax-free savings account, like a bank account. They have access to the money at any time. But the key difference is the TFSA is not tax deductible. Your contributions are not tax deductible. They don't result in a refund from the government at tax time, whereas the RRSP does. The RRSP, you're highly unlikely not to access that money, because if you do, you're going to be taxed on it, and it's there for retirement in those years when you're making less money. So you want to take advantage of the 2 features of the RRSP, that beautiful sounding tax deductible that results in free money, and tax deferred, which means all your gains, all your compounding for all those years builds tax-free until retirement, when you can withdraw the funds when you're at a lower income. Now stick with me on this. There's 2 keys. RRSPs are tax deductible and tax deferred. I know it's a little busy, but we'll go through this quickly and simplistically. Look at tax deductibility first. So we have a scenario here where an individual earns $70,000 in income, and this scenario is taking advantage of the RRSP. This scenario is not taking advantage of the RRSP. So first off, the contribution level is 18% of your earned income, to a maximum of $27,830 for 2021. You can simply look at your notice of assessment from CRA, and it'll tell you the amount that you can contribute. Obviously, civil servants, members of defined benefit pension plans would have a much lower amount because of their defined benefit pension, whereas the 70% of Canadians that work in private enterprise could take full advantage of this, given that only 1/4 of the 70% actually have pensions at work, so they really need to set up their own RRSP. So that's the contribution. Here's 18% of earned income, so this person is actually contributing $12,600 to their RRSP. That leaves them with taxable income, because it's tax deductible, leaves them with taxable income of $57,400, whereas this person has taxable income of $70,000. In the province of Ontario, your combined federal and provincial tax for $57,400 is $10,803. Your combined federal and provincial tax for $70,000 is $14,646. The difference, $3,843. That's a cash refund, a gift from the government to you. What do you do with the $3843? You could use it to pay off 1/3 of your loan if you borrowed the $12,600. You could spend it. I hope you don't. Probably the ideal thing to do would be to deposit that in your TFSA and let it accumulate there. So that's the big thing here, is a refund. If you're in a high tax bracket, the 50% tax bracket, you would get $6,300 as a refund, and you could pay off half that loan. And that leads from the tax deductibility to the tax deferral. And this is the beautiful thing here, where everything you invest in that RRSP, the interest, the dividends, the capital gains, all the multiplication, all the compound interest, all the compound dividends over time are tax-free until retirement, when you can start to withdraw the funds. If we take, for example, just this one contribution of $12,600, let's say you are going to tie it up for 35 years, and you're going to invest it in, probably not cash, that has very little return, and bonds have very little return, and we know that nothing beats equity for returns over time. The 120-year average of the S&P 500 is 10% per year, and yes, you can invest in U.S. securities. There's no withholding tax like there is in the TFSA. There's no withholding tax here on the dividends for buying the U.S. market. And you would obviously buy the S&P 500 or the total market index. Maybe Vanguard has the lowest fees, and you'd want a very low fee, broadly based market return. And you'd also want that account DRIP, dividend reinvestment, so automatically all your dividends are reinvested into more shares. So we can see here over 35 years at the average return of 10%, that one-time contribution of $12,600 becomes $354,000 after 35 years. That's just the 1 year. Imagine if you did it every year, the money that would pour in, the $350 every year. Just the cash refund, which you throw in your TFSA, is going to give you $108,000 off the tax refund. So that's really what you want to take advantage of in this situation. The TFSA can come in handy if you're somebody with a very low income, generally a very young person, maybe between 18 and 23, 24, somebody who's making substantially less than, say, $50,000 a year. But for the average person making over $50,000 a year, this is definitely the way to go. You know, ideally, you maximize both the RRSP and the TFSA. I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, but what about the tax I have to pay when this becomes $3.5 million after 35 years, which it would if you contributed $12,600 each year for 35 years at 10% compounded annually. This would grow to over $1 million, but this would be tax-free in your TFSA. You're saying, I don't want to have to pay that kind of tax. Well, if you take the money out at age 71, we have maximum tax rates in Canada. You could take the whole thing out at age 71. That would be equivalent, you'd lose half of it in tax if you're we assume the 50% tax rate. But the way to look at it is, if you lose half of it at age 71, it would be the same amount you had at age 64, because money doubles every 7 years at 10%. And that way, you wouldn't have to pay tax again, your state wouldn't have to pay tax on it, it would all be outside, and you're still miles ahead of the game, even paying the tax on it. And remember the kicker down here, that's going to grow to over $1 million tax-free. So the key, you got the tax deductibility, you got the tax deferral. Remember, RRSP first, TFSA second. Jim Ossifee, interpreting events to build wealth.